having found it unreliable, having seen that it failed to reliably predict and explain the world both within us and around us, felt it had no value at all. That response is what we know as atheism. Throw out the baby and the bathwater. But as Marcus Borg has been known to say, and many others with him, the atheist position is, I don't believe in a God that sits up in the sky and looks down on the earth and messes around with human life in a capricious and unpredictable fashion for God's own weird pleasure. I don't believe in a God that allows tsunamis to wipe out hundreds of thousands of people. I don't believe in this God who's supposed to be all-knowing, all-powerful, and everywhere, and yet these terrible things happen. I don't believe in that God. And Borg and others have come to say, well, you know what? I don't believe in that God either. But that's not the only way that we can begin to understand what we mean by this simple three-letter word, capital G-O-D. That there are other ways to understand God than the ways that we have understood God to this point in time. Some postulate that there is a continuing value to religion, a religion that works, a religion that is effective for the 21st century, the 21st century mind. So having not abandoned religion altogether, some have forged on to see if a meaningful, reliable, and predictable religion can be constructed for the 21st century. And that attempt is what's known as non-realism or non-theism. So you have the theist over here. There's a big guy in the sky that runs and controls everything. And you have the atheist over here. No, there's nobody up there running things. And then you have the non-theists in the middle, who says, while there's no being superior and existing in some plane to which we have no access, there is still an idea of God that is meaningful and powerful and that fills human life with more humanity. Now, one of the things that's been the great challenge, as we just mentioned, to the traditional thought of an omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent God is that question that is technically known as theodicy, T-H-E-O-D-I-C-Y. How is God just in the light of the suffering that goes on in this world? If human eyes can see that suffering, cannot the eyes of an all-knowing, all-powerful, omnipresent God also see that suffering? And if God sees it, why doesn't God do something about it? This, as I said a moment ago, is not a new feeling among human beings. Here again, the words of Ecclesiastes. Then I saw the wicked buried. They used to go in and out of the holy place and were praised in the city where they had done such things. Because sentence against an evil deed is not executed speedily, the human heart is fully set to do evil. There is also a vanity that takes place on earth, that there are righteous people who are treated according to the conduct of the wicked, and there are wicked people who are treated according to the conduct of the righteous. And so it becomes an untenable challenge to the idea of a big guy in the sky theology, an objective God upholding objective truth could no longer be sustained, even in the social realm, let alone the physical. But even in the realm of human doings, that idea could not be sustained, particularly when the very proponents of such a faith are the wicked ones. When I first read this passage, I just assumed that it was referring to, oh, how many funerals have we been to where the person that everybody knew was a no good so-and-so comes to be buried at the church, and everyone praises and prays and sings and cries and weeps over their death. And then on the patio, everyone whispers, well, you know we... But then I read it again. And there's an alternate understanding. He says, then I saw the wicked buried. They were the ones that used to go in and out of the holy place. That's referring to the priests. For only the priests had access to the holy place. It said, and yet they were praised in the very city where they had done such wicked things. So let alone the intellectual problems with our religion. When the proponents and the standard bearers of that faith are themselves the wicked ones, it makes such a faith not only untenable, but unbearable. In Acts, the writer there tries to lay claim on an even broader stage. Christianity having begun as a Jewish sect, they now are laying claim on the whole known world and lay claim directly on the philosophical traditions of the Greco-Roman world. Talks about a God that has now escaped the shrines and temples that had been constructed. That was as far as the human religion had gone. The idea of God before this big guy in the sky was the little guy in the temple. It was very clear to answer the question, who is God? With that understanding of religion, God is the one that we put inside the temple with the eyes and the hands and whatever figures they might have, whatever features they might have. And so it was this Christian notion building upon the Jewish tradition to take God out of the shrine and to raise God up to the sky and beyond the real physical world into this ethereal, spiritual, transcendent plane. And so he offers an understanding of God in which God is no longer one that is living in shrines made by human hands, nor is served by human hands as though God needed anything, but it is we who live in God and live and move and have our being. The intellectual question comes back to us again, and that is whether this ground of being is actually there, simply waiting for our minds to discover it, or is this ground dependent on our perception of it?